In a basement lab at University College London, a geneticist named Dr. Elena Marchetti watched an AI reconstruction of Queen Elizabeth I's genome populate her screen. And what filled that screen was never meant to be public. The algorithm had found something buried inside Elizabeth's X chromosome.
Elizabeth I should be remembered, first of all, as a brilliant survivor. She had a lot of odds against her from the time of her birth onwards.
A biological anomaly so dangerous that if it had surfaced during her reign, it would have ended the Tudor dynasty in a single night. Dr. Marchetti's hands were shaking when she called her project lead, because the data didn't just challenge history, it erased the version of Elizabeth we've been taught for 400 years. And what replaced it was far more terrifying. The impossible extraction. The team called themselves the Tudor Genome Project, and they'd been operating in near total secrecy for 5 years. Dr. Marchetti worked alongside Dr. Amir Khalid, a molecular archaeologist from King's College London who had previously helped confirm the remains of Richard III. Their mission sounded impossible: reconstruct the complete DNA of a queen whose tomb beneath Westminster Abbey will almost certainly never be opened. Exhuming Elizabeth would require an act of parliament, royal consent, and would ignite a firestorm of public outrage. In short, never happening. Everyone assumed that meant her genetic secrets would stay sealed forever. Here's the thing. What most historians had dismissed as curiosities and forgeries, rings, gloves, personal letters, this team saw as biological time capsules, and they brought a weapon no previous generation had access to, a next-generation artificial intelligence they nicknamed Argus, after the all-seeing giant of Greek myth. For 5 years, the team quietly traveled the world, extracting microscopic samples from artifacts with the strongest claims to authenticity. Not chunks, not visible traces, skin cells thinner than dust, invisible to the naked eye. They narrowed it down to 3 items. First, the checkers ring, a locket Elizabeth rarely removed, said to contain a tiny lock of her hair and a miniature portrait of Anne Boleyn. Second, a pair of her ceremonial gloves, still holding trace skin cells embedded deep in the fabric. And third, a state letter to the King of France, sealed with wax pressed by Elizabeth's own thumb. Each sample was a nightmare on its own. 400 years old, severely degraded, contaminated by countless handlers across centuries. Any conventional lab would have declared it hopeless. But Argus wasn't conventional. The AI cross-referenced damaged DNA fragments against verified genetic profiles from Elizabeth's bloodline. Richard III confirmed mitochondrial DNA from the Boleyn family, running billions of comparisons, and it reached a staggering result. With 99% certainty, the hair, the skin cells, and a single epithelial cell trapped in the wax seal all came from the same woman, directly connected to the Tudor and Boleyn lines. Dr. Khalid later said he had to leave the room. He sat in the hallway for 10 minutes before he could speak. They had found her. And now came the dangerous part. Using a process called genetic temporal modeling, Argus treated those fragments like a shattered manuscript. By comparing them against tens of thousands of 16th century European genomes, it learned what DNA should look like for that exact time and place, then began filling in the gaps, piece by piece, chromosome by chromosome. The result was a fully reconstructed virtual genome of Queen Elizabeth I, a genetic blueprint for a woman who died in 1603. And buried inside that blueprint was something that made the entire lab go silent. The secret on her X chromosome. Now, pay attention to this part, because what the AI found next didn't just surprise the team, it terrified them. The biggest mystery of Elizabeth's life is right there in her nickname, the Virgin Queen. For her entire 44-year reign, this wasn't just a personal choice, it was her political identity, her brand, her armor. She was Gloriana, Astrea, the mythical virgin goddess returned to Earth. She was, as she famously declared, married to her country. She dangled the possibility of marriage in front of the most powerful men alive. King Philip II of Spain, desperate to drag England back to Catholicism. Francis, the Duke of Anjou, whom she playfully nicknamed her frog. Even Robert Dudley, her childhood friend and closest courtier, strung along for decades. But she never said yes, not once. Historians have always called this a masterclass in political maneuvering. By staying single, she kept England free from foreign control. By almost marrying, she played enemies against each other, wielding the possibility of alliance like a weapon. But here's where it gets dark. The AI suggests this wasn't just brilliant strategy. It was biological necessity. Argus flagged a cluster of rare mutations on her X chromosome. Dr. Marchetti recognized the pattern immediately, and according to colleagues, she refused to believe the results. She ran the analysis 3 more times. Every pass returned the same markers. They were consistent with a condition known today as androgen insensitivity syndrome, or AIS. This is a condition where a person carries one X and one Y chromosome, genetically male, but the body is completely blind to male hormones. The result is that they develop physically as female. They look female. They identify as female. But they do not have a uterus. They cannot bear children. And get this. If the AI model is correct, it means Queen Elizabeth I was, genetically speaking, male. That single finding detonates everything. Her political identity wasn't strategy. It was a lifelong, meticulously constructed cover-up for a biological secret that would have destroyed her the moment it surfaced. In the 16th century, a monarch's primary duty, especially a queen's, was to produce an heir. If this had leaked, her rivals, especially Mary Queen of Scots, who had a healthy son named James, would have declared Elizabeth unnatural and unfit. Civil war. Overnight. Her reign finished before the ink dried, so she and her inner circle, Spymaster Francis Walsingham, Chief Minister William Cecil, built a myth around her. She couldn't be a mother, so she became something more powerful. She became untouchable. Here's the thing. This also unlocks her obsession with her appearance. That thick white lead makeup wasn't just about hiding her devastating smallpox scars from 1562. The AI suggests her condition may have carried subtle physical markers. The Argus report specifically notes that Elizabeth's famous elongated, elegant fingers, visible in every portrait, are a recognized physical trait of this exact condition. The lead paint, layered thick as plaster, wasn't vanity. It was a mask, a way to erase any trace of difference and present a flawless, androgynous icon to the world. And remember her most famous words? Standing before her troops at Tilbury as the Spanish Armada bore down on England, she declared, "I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." Supporters of this theory believe she wasn't speaking metaphorically. She was confessing a literal, hidden truth, and nobody caught it. Now, if this discovery alone is keeping you watching, do us a favor. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this channel digs into the secrets that history tried to bury, and the next one might be even bigger than this. Because what the AI found next wasn't about Elizabeth's condition. It was about her blood. And it's worse. The bloodline scandal. The team didn't stop at her health. They analyzed her paternal bloodline to confirm her place in the Tudor dynasty, and what came back nearly collapsed the project. To be clear, the AI confirmed her mother's line without a shred of doubt. The mitochondrial DNA was a perfect match for the Boleyn family. She was the daughter of Anne Boleyn, no question. The catastrophe is on her father's side. Dr. Khalid's team ran Elizabeth's virtual genome against the established Y chromosome markers of the Tudor line, genetic signatures derived from the confirmed remains of Richard III and other known male descendants. The result hit the lab like a bomb, no match. 0. The AI concluded that King Henry VIII was not Elizabeth's biological father. Let that settle for a moment. It means that the greatest monarch in English history, the icon who gave her name to an entire age, had no legitimate claim to the throne. By the laws of her own time, she was a usurper. But here's where it gets personal. It also means her mother, Anne Boleyn, was unfaithful to the king, exactly as Henry claimed when he had her arrested, tried, and beheaded on charges of infidelity and treason. History has always treated those charges as fabricated cruelty, a tyrant discarding a wife to chase his next one. This data suggests there may have been truth buried beneath the politics. So, if not Henry, then who? I can't name a father, but the paternal DNA markers show a strong match to a noble family in Anne Boleyn's circle. The leading candidates are 2 men long whispered about, Henry Percy, Earl of Northumberland, the man Anne loved before Henry VIII claimed her, and Mark Smeaton, a court musician who was executed alongside Anne. Historians always assume Smeaton was tortured into a false confession. This data suggests he may have been telling the truth all along, and still, the AI wasn't finished with her. The virtual autopsy. The team's final experiment is the one that kept Dr. Marchetti awake for 3 straight nights. They called it a virtual autopsy. Argus built a precise digital replica of Elizabeth's body, her organs, blood chemistry, nervous system, metabolism, and replayed her final weeks in forensic detail. Now, pay attention to this part. Elizabeth's death has always sounded tragic but explainable. She was 69. She was grieving deeply. Her cousin and closest companion, Catherine Carey, had just died, and she was still reeling from the rebellion and execution of Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex. Add decades of stress and chronic lead poisoning from her makeup, and the story seems complete. But her final days were deeply strange. For nearly 4 days, she refused to lie down. She stood, supported by her exhausted ladies-in-waiting, or sat on cushions piled on the floor. She held her finger in her mouth or pointed at it, seemingly in agony but refusing to speak. Historians wrote it off as delirium. Argus disagreed. The AI confirmed the lead had damaged her liver and weakened her immune system, but the simulation showed that lead alone could not account for her symptoms. Not the intense muscle pain, not the inability to lie down, not the burning in her mouth. And get this. So, Argus ran a full toxicological scan. Thousands of known poisons tested against her virtual body. And it got a hit. What it identified was chilling. A rare, sophisticated assassin's blend of aconite, wolf's bane, and atropine from belladonna, deadly nightshade. This wasn't crude arsenic. This was calculated, invisible, brilliant. In the simulation, small doses of belladonna produced fever, flushed skin, and confusion, perfectly mimicking natural illness. Meanwhile, wolf's bane silently attacked the nervous system. It started as a burning, tingling agony in the mouth, explaining exactly why Elizabeth kept pointing there, unable to speak. Then came agonizing muscle stiffness, making lying down unbearable. Standing was the only relief. And finally, over days, the poison shut down her respiratory system. According to this model, Elizabeth didn't die peacefully in her sleep. She was slowly suffocated, fully conscious but unable to cry out, by a poison so refined that no physician in 1603 would have known what to look for. But here's where it gets dark.
AI can't name a killer.
But the suspect list is terrifyingly short, and it points inward, not outward. James of Scotland, the impatient heir already circling the throne? Possible. But the most chilling candidate is Sir Robert Cecil, Elizabeth's own spymaster, a man already secretly writing to James, arranging a seamless transfer of power. Did he decide that an aging, grieving queen was a liability? Did he choose a quiet ending over political uncertainty? Here's the sobering truth. This is a simulation, not a body on a slab. It is an extraordinarily educated prediction built from real DNA fragments, real artifacts, and real historical records. But the unsettling part is that everything fits. The symptoms, the secrecy, the timing, the politics, a lifetime of hidden truths, all converging in one dark room in March of 1603. The Virgin Queen was far more complex, far more tragic, and far stronger than history ever admitted. She wasn't just fighting enemies abroad. She was fighting her own biology, her own bloodline, and in the end, a hidden killer who may have been standing right beside her. So, here's the question. If Elizabeth's tomb beneath Westminster Abbey were ever opened, and real DNA could finally be tested, would it confirm what this AI found? Or would it reveal something even darker? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this is the kind of history that keeps you up at night, subscribe now, because the next secret we uncover might be the one they're still trying to hide.